Well, good morning. The inquiry today will hear the evidence of Collette Bell. At an earlier stage, I ordered that her evidence should be taken using a special measure, namely that her evidence should be recorded in a closed hearing and subsequently played in public. In authorizing this special measure, I took account of a number of considerations, including Miss Bell was the partner of Sheku Bayo at the time of his death. She was the mother of his child. I had regard to a medical report and background information. The closed hearing took place in the hearing room on Monday, 6th February 2023. The hearing was attended by the chair, assessors, counsel to the inquiry, and such inquiry staff as were necessary to conduct the recording. Ms. Bell's legal representatives were also in attendance. The recording of her evidence will be played today. As there were breaks in her evidence, we shall take short breaks during the playback. The first part will last just over 1 hour. We shall then take a 15-minute break. The second part will take about 50 minutes. We shall then take a 10-minute break, and the final part will last just over 1 hour. So play the first part, please. Now, Miss Bell, if you want to break at any time, just let me know.
Okay.
Would you say the words of the affirmation after me, please? I solemnly, sincerely, and truly
I solemnly, sincerely, and truly
declare and affirm
that
I will tell the truth,
I will tell the truth,
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
That's great.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're Collette Bell?
Yes.
What age are you?
34.
And we have all of your contact details, so I don't need you to say that.
Okay.
Do you see the blue folder in front of you?
Yeah.
Please feel free to open that up. This contains hard copies of all the documents that I might be referring you to.
Okay.
And if you want to look at any of those or direct me to any passage, please feel free to do so. You can use them, you can open the folder at any time.
Okay.
You may have seen me take some evidence from witnesses in the inquiry. You'll know that when I put passages from inquiry statements to witnesses, they'll come up on this TV screen in front of you. But if there was anything else you wanted me to refer to, just say and we can bring up other passages. I'd like to begin by looking at some of the older statements that we have for you. And as I said, you'll see hard copies in the folder. If we look at PERC 00027 first of all, and just briefly, you'll see your own name there, Collette Bell at the top. And you'll see towards the bottom of the screen that this was a statement that was taken on the 3rd of May 2015 at 11:12.
Yeah.
And it was taken by DC Parker within Kirkcaldy Police Station. Now this version on the screen is a typed version, but there was also a handwritten version that was converted and it typed up. And for your purposes only, really, at the back of your blue folder, you'll see a version, the handwritten version. And that's, as we understand it, in the handwriting of one of the police officers, not your own handwriting, but that's the handwritten version there. You've got a copy of that, I'm not putting that on the screen. And then if we can look at PERC 00028, this is another typed version, and it's dated, again, it's your statement, dated the 8th of May 2015, taken at 15:15 by investigator John Clarkin in the presence of Perk investigator Alistair Lewis and Miss Lorraine Bell. Now, I understand Lorraine Bell is your mum.
Yes.
Thank you. And then let's briefly look at Perk 00029. Again, another statement. This one's dated the 6th of July 2015 at 10:55 by investigator Alistair Lewis and investigator Victoria Karen. And thank you. And I just wanted to say, so that's 3 statements that you gave at on different dates in 2015. And initially to the police and laterally to people from Perk.
Yeah.
When you were giving all of those statements, were you doing your best to tell the truth
Yes.
and to be as accurate
Yeah.
in what you remembered as
Yeah.
you could be? Thank you. Can I now look at your inquiry statement, please? And you'll see that this is Collette Bell, 26th October 2022 and 10th November 2022, and it was taken by a member of the inquiries team.
Yeah.
And then if we can look at there's 27 pages, and if we can look at the last page, we should see that you signed this on the 24th of January of this year. Now, although we can't see your signature on the screen, in the hard copy in your blue folder, you should be able to see that you signed every page.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. And then we can see on the final paragraph on the screen, number 78, I believe the facts stated in this witness statement are true. I understand that this statement may form part of the evidence before the inquiry and be published on the inquiry's website.
Yeah.
And again, that's what you understood when you signed the statement.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I think on paragraph 77, you've been asked, we've heard evidence from a number of people who've said the statements they gave in 2015 were maybe a better, reflected their recollection at the time better than maybe they were able to do now.
Yeah.
Is that the same for you?
Yes.
You said that some things are really vivid in your memory, but other things are just now.
Yeah.
So was your memory better in 2015?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. And then can we look at, just go back to the start of your inquiry statement, please? And before I take you through this in detail, I noticed from one of your earlier statements, and I don't need to put this to you, that by the time we're at May 2015, you'd lived with Shekubayo for a couple of years.
Yes. Yeah.
And you were partners. And as I understand it, you'd not long had a baby.
Yes.
And how many months old was your baby at that time in May?
He was 3.5 months.
Right. And did you have a good relationship with Shekubayo?
Yes.
And did you have plans for your future?
Yes, we did.
We've heard that he was a man that liked going to the gym. And we've heard that he had a number of friends.
Yeah.
One of them was called Martin Dick. And one of them was called Zaid Sahid.
Yes.
And were you did you know his friends?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
have time with them as
Yeah.
well? Let's look at paragraph 2. We see the start of that there. And I'm just going to start by going back to the morning of the 3rd of May 2015. So we've heard it was a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And I think we've also heard that you'd stayed at your mum's the night before.
Yes.
And that Sheku was going to be watching the boxing with his friends Martin and Zaid. And you've said in paragraph 2 that on the Sunday morning you got a call from Zahid explaining that there'd been an altercation between him and Sheikh. I think you call him Sheikh
I
during
call him
the
Sheikh,
inquiry
yeah.
statement. And you said that brought up alarm bells because they were like brothers and were
Yeah.
really close friends.
Yes.
Just, you say in that paragraph it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and without taking you to your original statement, you'd said in that it was, you'd got a text from Zaid Zahid at about 7:30 asking you to phone him.
Yes.
Is it possible that it was nearer 7:30
Yeah.
than 6?
Yes.
And he asked you to phone him and you called him back
Straight away.
straight away?
Yeah.
Tell us about that call that you had with Zaid.
I remember receiving the phone call and sounding quite panicked on the phone, and he was kind of stuttering, trying to say what he was trying to say, and he had said, nothing to worry about, everything's okay, I'm okay, but Sheikh's attacked me. And I had said, what do you mean? Why? What's going on? He was like, don't worry, I'm all right, but I just wanted you to know, and I don't want you to go home. And that kind of gave me alarm bells as well, because I was thinking, why does he not want me to go home? Of course I'm going to go home. So he was just trying to say, look, Sheikh's not himself. I'd rather you didn't go home just now. So I think that was basically all that was said in that phone call. But straight on the back of that phone call, I had gone through, woke my mum up and said, I need to go down to Kirkcaldy, something's happened. Sheikh's attacked Zaid and I don't know what's going on. I need to go and check and see that Sheikh's okay.
And is that what you did?
Yes.
And I think later in your statement you say you left your baby in the care of your mum.
Yes.
And you went to your house in
Yes.
Kirkcaldy.
Yeah.
And then in paragraph 4, you say that you tried to phone Sheikh and you went downstairs and his phone was ringing
Yeah.
in the corner of the kitchen floor. Tell us what the house was like when you arrived back that morning.
I remember arriving and I'm sure the front door was open, but it wasn't wide open, but it wasn't locked. So I remember opening the door and I'm kind of shouting Sheikh, and I'll go into the living room and I'm shouting him. And as I come out of the living room and look straight onto the kitchen, and the back door was open, the kitchen door. So I remember just shouting on him, and then I went outside to the garden thinking, if my kitchen door's open, maybe he's outside. But he wasn't there. And whilst I was in the kitchen, I remember thinking, what's happened here? There's coats in front of our sink on the floor, and there was fridge magnets all over the floor and out into the garden, which was really strange. And then I remember running upstairs shouting on Sheikh to find him. And as I've gone into our bedroom, we had a small television in our bedroom, and I remember that being on the floor and other little bits and pieces on the floor as well. And I just remember thinking, what is going on here? What's happened? So I'm just still trying to shout on him and look for him. So I think I've tried to phone him as I'm coming down the stairs, and I hear his phone ringing in the kitchen. And his phone is in the corner of the kitchen on the floor, and I just started to panic straight away. So I think I'd phoned my mum at this point and said, I can't find him, his phone's here, the door's open. And then I think at that point I phoned Zaid as well. And I remember him saying, I told you not to go to the house, what are you doing? And I said, well, I've come to find Sheik, he's not here. When did you last see him? Like, how long ago did you see him? Do you know where he could be? He was just more wanting me to get out of the house. He had said, I want you to get back into your car, get back in the car, lock the door, stay on the phone whilst you do that, and let me know when you're back in the car. And I thought, what is wrong with Zaid? What is wrong with him? Like, why is he so anxious for me to get in the car and be away, kind of thing?
Did he ever explain why he didn't want you to go
He
back
just
in the
said
house?
that Sheik wasn't himself. And I remember thinking, of course he's not himself, he's attacked you. That's why I'm wanting to, see that he's all right.
Can you explain to the chair, you've said Zaid talked about he's not himself and recognising that that must be right if he's attacked Zaid. Can you explain to us what was Sheik normally like?
Sheik was a very laid-back type of person. He was upbeat, he was outgoing, he was happy all the time. He wasn't a violent person, he wasn't aggressive. So I was really worried because this was just really not like Sheik, and that's why I was panicking. And I wanted to make sure that he was all right, because if he's had a fight with Zaid, I'm thinking something's really not right here. I need to see that he's okay.
What time were you in the house? Do you remember?
I don't remember times now. It wasn't long after I received the phone call that I was straight down there.
So if it's correct that you received a text from Zaid about 7:30, how long would it have taken you to get to the house?
Probably about 15 minutes, because I remember just handing the baby over, getting dressed and going straight there. I remember driving in a bit of a panic as well because I was worried.
And then I think at paragraph 5, you talk about driving around Temple Hall at the time looking for Sheik.
Yeah.
And how long did you spend doing that?
Not too long. I think I just remember kind of really driving towards the shop, and that's where I had seen one of his friends, Jim, and I had asked him if he had seen him, and he hadn't seen him. And then I was thinking, well, I'll just keep driving around, but I don't really remember for how long I drove. I think I just looked around the back of our house at the garages, thinking he's maybe gone out the back way, so I'll see if I can kind of see him around there. But I think at that point I had phoned my mum and said, I can't find him, I can't see him, like, I don't think he's gone to the shop, I can't see him behind the houses. And I think that's when Mum had said, I think you need to phone the police, because it was just so out of character for him, to leave the door open, to leave his phone at home and not be there. I was really worried that I couldn't find him.
And you said in paragraph 6 you did phone the police.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to do is play an audio tape, and then I'll ask you some questions about it.
Yeah.
It'll just take a few minutes. Now, while we're listening to it, there's a typed version of what you see, and you'll see that at the back of your blue folder.
Yeah.
So the typed version is PERC 01384, and you'll see that towards the rear of your blue folder. And we can put that on the screen, and we'll play or it may be that we'll play the audio. And if you want, you can just follow it as we go through. But what will happen is when we start playing, it'll be the call that you hear. You'll see on the first page it mentions the transcript of the telephone call from Collette Bell, and the time starts at 8:36 in the morning on the 3rd of May 2015. Thank you.
Please, what's the address of your emergency?
It's Karen Crescent, Kirkcaldy.
And what's happening there?
I'm not sure where to start. I received a phone call from my boyfriend's best friend saying that that he's beaten him up like really, really bad, and that he's scared for his safety. And I've gone home, and my back door's wide open, and my kitchen's trashed, and all my boyfriend's stuff, like his jacket and his phone's in the house, and he's missing. And his best friend's like worried in case he's going to hurt somebody else.
So your boyfriend's beat up his friend?
Yeah, but it's totally out of character for him.
Right, what's your boyfriend's name?
It's Shikubayo.
How do you spell that?
SHEKU.
S-H-E-K-U.
KU.
And how do you spell his surname?
BAYOH.
Right. What's your name?
It's Collette Bell.
Collette Bell.
Yeah. It's 'cause my house was wide open, like my back door was wide open.
And is that A-double-A-R-O-N? Is that how you spell Aaron?
ARRAN, yeah.
Aaron Crescent.
Yeah.
And that's in Kirkcaldy.
Yeah.
And your house is totally trashed?
Yeah. And he's left his keys in the door, and his jacket's there, and his phone's in the kitchen. He's out with no phone and no jacket or anything on, and he's obviously left the house wide open.
And you've had a phone call from his friend to say he's been beaten up?
Yeah, and he's like asked me not to be in the house because he's worried about my safety. So I'm worried about his safety, but I'm also worried about the safety of others.
I'll give you a list of the benefits just and if you just dial 999.
Please, what's the next of the next? Hello? I go to the phone now.
And all his jacket and keys and everything are there?
Yeah. I've left the house just now.
Fine.
When did you last see him?
Well, I stayed at my mum's last night, so I've not seen him since yesterday. But his best friend seen him about, I think it happened about an hour and maybe 20 minutes ago.
And where did this take place?
His friend said that Shrek had like chased him out of the house.
And whereabouts?
I'm not sure.
An hour ago, somewhere in Kirkcaldy?
Yeah. He's been up all night drinking, so I just don't know about his state of mind at all.
There's no exchange between you and him.
Can you give me a description of him?
He's
Is he white? Is he white?
No, he's black.
Uh-huh.
Shaven head, brown eyes. He's quite muscly. He's about 5, like just under 6 foot.
What was he wearing, do you know?
I don't have a clue.
Did he have any weapons?
Before I seen him, he was wearing black jeans and a black and blue shirt. He did have a blue hoodie on, but I think that was on the floor as well. So he might just
So he
have
wouldn't
his
have
shirt
that on, right?
No. But then I don't know if he's gone home and changed since I've last seen him.
B-A-Y-O-H and it's S-H-E-K-U. What's his date of birth?
It's the 31st of September, 1987? No, 83. Sorry.
Right, are you outside your property?
I'm a few streets away from
Right,
it.
if you can go back to the property, we'll get somebody to attend there, okay?
Well, I've left my son with my mum back in, so...
Right, it's just we'll have to get somebody to the house.
Yeah, would it be alright if they come in about half an hour if I just go and get my mum and my son and then go back again?
Yeah, I'll put that on it, yep.
It's just my son's breastfed and he's going to meet...
Alright, I see, yeah, no problem. If you go and get your son and go back and we'll get officers to meet you at the address.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Right, thanks, bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Do you recognise your voice?
Yes.
And that's the call you made to the police that
Yeah.
morning. Can we go back to what I have on page 2 of the transcript? It says, I received a phone call from my boyfriend's best friend saying that he's beaten him up, like really, really bad, and that he's scared for his safety. Was Zaid telling you that he was worried about Sheikh?
I can't remember if he'd said that he was worried about Sheikh. I think he was worried about me going home.
And it says, I mean, his best friend's like worried in case he's going to hurt somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he was meaning me. I'm not sure. When I made that call, I was very, very panicked.
And looking at the next page, page 3 of 4, at the top of that page, you mention that he's no jacket or anything on, and he's obviously left the house wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask why you noticed in particular that he had no jacket or anything on?
I think I remember seeing that the jacket was on the kitchen floor.
Did that surprise you that he had no jacket on?
Sheikh was a very neat and tidy person. I couldn't even put my coffee cup down before he was picking it up, so I think that's why I was so worried as well, because the house was such a mess and it just wasn't like him at all, and I just couldn't understand why he's put his jacket on the floor.
And you said that you were worried about his safety, Sheikh's safety,
Yeah.
but also worried about the safety of others. What concerns did you have at that time?
I think I was worried about Sheikh, but then because he had hurt Zaid, I was then worried what kind of state his mind is in, because it's just not like him at all. So I think maybe going from what Zaid had said on the phone to me early in the morning, I think that must have been my train of thought as well, but I remember mostly being worried about Sheikh.
And then remaining on page 3, further down, you say, he's been up all night drinking, so I just don't know about his state of mind at all. You can see it there coming onto the screen now, if we stop there. What made you aware that he'd been up all night drinking?
I think because he was at his niece's party the night before, and I knew that he was going to be having a drink with his friend Zaid like after the party. And I think because Zaid had phoned me in the morning, I thought they've still been up, or this has just happened, so I just assumed.
Now, we've other evidence available to the chair that Sheikh had consumed drugs that night. And I understand from earlier statements that you'd given at the time that you had concerns about that. Do you want to tell us about those?
I didn't know that he was taking drugs. I'm very against drugs, and Sheikh knew that. So I didn't know about that. I didn't find that out until the post-mortem and the toxicology came back. But I knew that he was having a drink with Zaid.
And while we're on the subject, we've also heard that he may have in the past taken steroids. And I think you were against that as well.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us about your concerns?
Because I'm so anti-drugs, anti-steroids, when I first met Sheikh, I had said all this to him, and he had said that, you know, in his past he had used drugs and he had done steroids, and I made it clear to him that I'm not going to be with somebody that does something like that. is against my values, and he knew that. But I remember just after our baby was born, he was acting differently, and I remember asking him, what is wrong with you? You're not being yourself. Are you on steroids? Because I knew that steroids could make you a bit more argumentative and things. And I remember him saying, no, if I was on steroids, you would know about it. And I remember thinking, well, you are acting a bit differently. And that's why I'm asking you, but he had told me no.
What impact did the steroids have on Czech, as far as you know?
I wasn't aware of it. It was the same to me, apart from that one episode after I was born, and I just thought, well, we're new parents, we're up all night, we're tired. Maybe he's just a bit tired. But I wasn't aware that he was taking steroids, so I wasn't aware of any behaviour changes. I didn't even notice his size. Now looking back on it, I think, how naive was I? Like, I didn't see that, he was gaining muscle and then kind of going back down, and then, so I feel stupid that I didn't see that.
We have heard there's some evidence available for the chair that the steroids were linked with his gym membership,
Yeah.
and thank you. Can I ask you about when the police arrived at the house? So I think you went back to your mum's,
Yeah.
got the baby and your mum, and then
Yeah.
went back to your house in Kirkcaldy.
Yeah.
Were the police already there when you arrived?
Yes.
How many were there?
There were 2 cars. My recollection of it was that there was 4 officers, but I now know there was only 3. But I think I just felt like there was more of a presence there, and that's maybe why I've thought that there was 4.
When you say you now know there's only 3, how do you know that?
Just from watching the inquiry.
All right, okay. Now, I think in your inquiry statement, if we go back to that, you say in paragraph 7 that you took the officers into the house and 2 officers ushered me into the living room, and then one went straight through to the kitchen and one went upstairs.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you whether at any stage you remember maybe being held back, or not
No.
held back physically as
no.
such, but just waiting outside to see if the house was okay.
I remember when we arrived, I had locked the door. So I had to unlock the door to let everybody in. And then as soon as we stepped through the door, I remember one going upstairs, one going through the kitchen, and then we were taken through to the living room.
So you'd called the police, and were you happy for the police to check that the house was safe at that point when you arrived?
Yeah, I think when they arrived, I wasn't really thinking. I think I remember feeling like, oh, like, why are you going upstairs and why are you going to the kitchen? But I think I was just in such a flurry that I wasn't really thinking straight.
You said a short time ago that you were in a panic. How were you feeling at this stage?
Still panicky.
Do you remember if any of the police officers asked for your permission to go into the house?
No.
But had they asked for permission formally,
Yeah.
would you have been happy for
Yeah.
them to go in and
Yeah.
check? Could we look at paragraph 9, please? It says, when the police were in the living room, they had to explain to us that I would have to come down to the station, that they weren't really very sure what was going on, but they wanted to speak to me down at the station. And you'll see that you mention that there in paragraph 9. Explain to us what was discussed with the police in your living room that day.
I remember them speaking to us and saying that that they had just come on shift, and they weren't very sure what was going on, but it would be best if you go down to the station. And I remember asking, why would I need to go to the station? And they had said, oh, well, we don't really know what's going on, and we think it's better if you just come down to the station. We'll be able to tell you a bit more when we're down there. And they had said that I would have to pack a bag for me and for the baby. And I think they were meaning for us to go to the station straight away, but I needed to feed the baby again. And I do remember them saying to my mum, how will you get home, or something like that. And we were like, my mum's not going anywhere, she's coming with us. And a police officer had said, no, she can't come with you. The police station's no place for a baby. And my mum was kind of saying, Colette's not going anywhere, I'm coming with her. And then they were kind of looked at each other, and I remember them not being very happy. But then they kind of just agreed that Mum could come with me.
Are you able to describe the officer who said a police station's no place for a baby?
Now looking back, I can't remember his name, with the bald head. I can't remember, sorry.
Well,
I remember it was him.
We might have had quite a few witnesses, but there were two who spoke about being the police officers who were in your house that day. And one of them was called Andrew Mitchell.
Yes.
And he had a shaved head.
Yes.
One of them was called Wayne Parker.
Yeah.
And he had a Newcastle accent.
Yeah. I think it was PC Mitchell maybe, because I remember him talking a lot about him having a sniffly nose, and I remember them saying the police station's no place for a baby. I could be wrong, I could be recalling that wrongly, but it was definitely said that, you know, Mum would have to go home, she would need to find her way home, and that the police station was no place for a baby.
But what was it you wanted that day?
I wanted Mum there, and my baby as well, because he was only 3.5 months.
And why was it important to you to have your mum and your baby there?
I think because I just didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was happening. I was very, very worried, and I think I was thinking worst case scenario. But I just wanted Mum to be there.
Mm-hmm. You use in paragraph 9, you used the word it was confusing for you in the middle of the paragraph. Is that how you were feeling?
Yeah, I just remember feeling very panicked, very worried, and very confused because I didn't know what was going on. And they were saying for us to come down to the station, and I thought, why can't you just tell me what's happening? Why do I have to need to go to the police station, sorry. Yeah, just very confused. And with the officers coming into the house, I just remember thinking, what is going on here?
At any point, did the officers give you more information about what was going on?
No. Whenever I was asking questions, they just kept saying, we've just come on shift and we don't know.
The officers have given evidence, you've obviously watched it, have said there wasn't really any difficulty with your mum and baby coming to the police station. Would you like to comment on that?
I mean, it was definitely said.
What was your impression?
My impression was they had said that Mum would have to make her way home and that the police station was no place for a baby. I remember them saying it like it was yesterday. You know, I have no reason to lie. I have no reason to make that up. I don't know why I would want to make that up. I'm baffled as to why they said that they didn't say that when it was said. But I'm in no position to lie. I've got no reason to lie. I'm just recalling what was said.
Did you feel at that time that you had any option or choice to say, no, I don't want to go to the police station?
No, because I had said, I just want to know what's going on. Why? I remember saying, why can't you just tell me what's going on? And they just kept saying, we've just come on shift, we don't know what's happened. So if we go to the police station, we'll maybe be able to find out more.
So at that time, did you have an understanding as to why you were being asked to go to the station as opposed to staying in your own house?
No, I think it was, the reasons for it was that they had just come on shift and they didn't know what was happening.
Did you understand at that time why you'd been asked to pack a bag?
I think they had said something like, you'll need to get some things together because this could be the beginning of a crime scene. And that really took me aback. I was shocked. And I think it made me worry even more that they were saying that.
Who was it that said that? Do you remember?
I think it was Wayne Parker.
What did you understand at that time that they meant by the beginning of a crime scene?
I don't know. I think I was just thinking worst case scenario, because I do remember whilst we were getting a bag together, going upstairs into the bedroom and I was feeding. Sorry. I remember my mum was looking out the window.
Was your mum in the room with you?
Yeah. And she was saying, they're covering the garden with polythene. And I just remember saying, shit's dead. And I don't know why I was saying that, I have no reason. I think it was just all the commotion in the house and the officers and then the polythene in the garden. I just thought, something's really not right here. I think Shake's dead. And Mum was like, don't be silly, like, let's just feed and then we'll get down to the police station, we'll find out what's going on.
And when you say you were thinking about the worst case scenario, is that what you were thinking?
Yeah.
Did you understand when all of this is happening that the police were going to seize your house?
No, I think it was just said to us that it was the beginning of a crime scene. Maybe, yeah, because I think they had said you'll need to pack a bag in case you can't get back in. I think that's what they had said.
Did you understand that your house would be searched?
No.
Was it explained to you that your house would be searched?
I don't think so.
Were you asked for permission or
No.
consent?
No,
to
it was. This looks like this looks like the beginning of a crime scene, and we'll need to take hold of the house. So you'll need to pack a bag. That is what they had said. You know, when I was watching the inquiry before, and you were asking about permission, I thought, well, surely permission is asking, could we take the house, or words to the effect of permission. Do you mind, or we will have to, or it was just that this is what we're doing. There was no question. It was, this looks like the beginning of a crime scene, we'll need to take the house. There was no possibility or of them not taking it. It was, they were taking it.
Was there any mention at all when you were in the house of the house being searched?
No.
Now then, you come on in your statement to tell us about going to Kirkcaldy Police Station, and I'd like to ask you some questions about that. Could we maybe turn to paragraph 15? And I just want to touch on something here where you say, we were taken into a small room. I remember when we went in, looking to the left and seeing a room full of police officers, and they were all looking
Yeah.
at us. Can you, you'll have heard yourself from Constable Parker, Wayne Parker, that he'd made arrangements to keep the corridors clear when you arrived in Kirkcaldy. Did you know anything about that?
No.
And when you said you saw a room full of police officers looking at us, you'll remember Constable Parker, Sergeant Parker,
Yeah.
had said that there was a custody room, I think, where people might have been looking through.
Yeah.
There was I think he said there was glass in the
Yeah.
window.
That, I don't recall that. I remember going to the police station, and then you go upstairs and then you go through the doors, and I remember looking to the left and there was a very, very busy room. The door wasn't closed, there wasn't a glass panel, the door was open. It was a very busy room, there was a lot of officers looking at us, and then we went to the right, and that's when we went into the small room. If you took me to the police station just now, I'd be able to show you where they were. Everything from the police station I remember like it was yesterday. I run through it every year for nearly 8 years now.
Okay. You've told us about, you've mentioned small room a few times. We've heard it was an interview room. Describe the room for us.
I do remember that the room was quite small. I remember going in and there being a table and a chair, and then 2 chairs in front of the table. So the officers sat on one side of the table, I sat directly across, and then my mum to the other side of me with the baby.
What explanation was given to you at that time about what was going to happen?
I think it was a lot of, I need to go here, I need to do this, and then they had come back.
Is that the officers were needing to do things?
So they sat us down, and I think one of the officers had gone away, and then the other officer, PC Mitchell I think it was talking about having a sniffly nose, and talking to me about, oh, you should try a Calpol plug-in, and I just remember thinking, what are you talking about? Like, why are you talking to me about my baby's sniffly nose? Just tell me what is going on and what's happened to Shek. I remember feeling quite angry about it because I remember thinking, will you just be quiet and tell me what's happened to my partner, please? Yeah.
We heard that the officers' intentions were to try and build some rapport with you.
Yeah.
And from what you're describing...
No, I wasn't interested. I wasn't interested in small chat. I wasn't interested in what he recommended for my baby. I'll look after my baby. You just tell me what's happened to my partner. I was very irritated by it.
And then at paragraph 16, you talk about when the officers told you the bad news, and you've put in this paragraph in your inquiry statement 16, it's in quotation marks. There's no easy way of saying this. I'm just going to say it. There's been a body found that matches your partner's description, and we think it's Shek. Why is that in quotation marks there?
Because that's what I've said. That's exactly how I remember it. That's what was said.
And the wording there is, there's been a body found. Is that, how comfortable are you with that expression?
I would swear on my children's life. No ups, downs, maybes. I didn't misunderstand anything. I remember those words being told to me like it was yesterday, and there is no hesitation in my mind that they said there's been a body found that matches your partner's description.
And you've explained how upset you were as a result of that. And then at the end of this paragraph, you say you were in shock, and then I think once I calmed down a little bit, I regained myself a little bit. I had said, well, what's happened to him? Has he collapsed? Has he got any wounds? Has he been hurt? Has he been stabbed? What's happened? Where was he found? they just said that a passerby had found him dead on the street.
Yeah.
And tell us, how confident are you in your memory of asking those questions and the
Yeah.
response you got?
Yeah, as sure can be. Like I say, I have got PTSD. Things after the police station are very blurry. I can't recall who said what, when, but everything in the police station, I remember like it was yesterday. I remember all the questions that they asked. I remember all the questions that I asked. And I remember as soon as I was told that, I wanted to know what had happened to him. And I remember asking, well, has he collapsed? Has he got any wounds? Has he been stabbed? Has he been hit by a car? What's happened to him? I remember asking them because I remember wanting to know what had happened. And I thought, well, he's not just dropped down dead. Like, how is he dead? What's happened? And I remember them just saying a passerby had found him dead on the street.
The final sentence that mentions the passerby
Yeah.
is not in quotation marks.
Uh-huh.
And can you help the chair understand to what extent that reflects what you were told? Because the earlier passage you
Yeah.
had as a quote.
Yeah. No, it should be a quote. That was everything that was said.
And so the words that were said, you say they just said that a passerby had found him dead on the street.
Yeah.
Is that the passage that should be in quotation
Yeah.
marks?
Yeah.
Was that the first mention of a passerby?
Yeah.
Was there any explanation other than the words that you have there in paragraph 16 about the circumstances?
No, they had just said there had been a body found, that a passerby had found him, and they didn't know what had happened. And that's when I had said, well, has he got any wounds? And I remember them saying, not that we can see, not that we know of.
Any other information that they shared with you at that time?
No, they had just said that a passerby had found him, and then it was, we need to take a statement from you.
The officers obviously gave evidence to the chair, and as I understand that, they said that they knew at this time that Sheikh had died after coming into contact with the police. But one of the officers said he'd been told by a more senior officer not to share that information with you. If that had been shared with you on that day, at that time,
Yeah.
what difference would that have made for you?
I don't think I would have sat in the police station for hours giving a statement on the back of Sheikh dying, having coming into contact with the police.
Why is that?
If the police were the last ones to see Sheikh alive, he was fine until they got there. Why am I then going to sit in the police station and give them information when they've hurt Sheikh?
How does it make you feel to know that that information was withheld from you?
Disgusted.
Why do you say that?
You know what's happened. I've asked you what has happened. I've asked you, has he been stabbed? Has he collapsed? Has he been hit by a car? What's happened to him? And you say, no obvious wounds. We don't know. You do know. You know that the police have been in contact with Sheikh, and you know that he's died right on the back of being in contact with the police. You do know what's happened to him. You know that he's not been stabbed. You know that he's not been hit by a car. You know that he's died after being restrained. And you're lying. I don't feel it's withholding information. That is a straight up lie. I'm asking you a question and you're saying, no, I don't know. That to me is a lie. Might make you feel better that you say you're withholding information, but to me that's not withholding information, that's intentionally lying.
And that's your view?
My opinion, yeah.
Is that how you felt once you found out
Yes.
more information?
Yeah.
Can I ask you about paragraph 18, please? You describe your reaction to the news, and you've said that your mum was comforting you. You'll
Yeah.
see that on line 3. And then once you settled down a little bit, they said, I know this is really difficult for you, but we're going to have to take a statement from you. That's in quotation marks. I said, I'm not giving a statement, I just want to go and see Sheikh. Why would I need to give a statement? I just want to know what's happened.
Yeah.
And again, that's all in quotation marks. To what extent are those your recollections of the words that were used?
Yep. Like it was yesterday, I remember it.
Thank you. Do you remember which of the officers said those words that you have?
It was
about
Wayne
having to
Parker.
take a
Yeah.
statement, Wayne Parker. We've heard that the other officer took your baby out
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
room for, he thought, around 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you agree with
Yeah,
that?
that's right.
And that was to let you calm down a little after
Yeah.
getting the news. And was did your mum remain in the room with you
Yeah.
during that
Yeah.
time? Looking back now, was it helpful for you to have your mum there?
Yes. Yeah.
Can we look at paragraph, just at the bottom of paragraph 18? You say, I remember them saying that they were looking for somebody in connection with it. But I can't really remember the sequence of when they had said that.
Yeah.
I just remember when I was asking what's happened to him, they had said, we are looking for somebody. Again, we see there that you have, we are looking for somebody in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Do you remember who said that?
Wayne Parker. I remember it was him that was doing all the talking. From what I remember, it was him that was. He told me that Sheikh had been found. He was the one who was asking me questions, and it was him that had said that they were looking for somebody in connection with it.
Was any other information given?
No, they had just said, like that passerby had found him, and that they were looking for somebody in connection with it.
What impression did that leave you with?
I thought that he'd obviously been murdered. That was my thoughts at the time. If you're looking for somebody, somebody's done this to him, somebody's hurt him.
So again, at that time, was there any mention at all about the police contact?
No.
The officers gave evidence, and as I understand their evidence, they say they didn't tell you they were looking for somebody. Do you have any comment about that?
Again, why would I lie? Why would I lie? I have no reason to say that. I don't have any reason to lie. I don't just make this information up. I've not just plucked it up out of thin air. It's not something that I would just say. I have no reason to do that. Yeah. They did say that, and it probably goes against what they were supposed to say, and that's why they're saying that they didn't say it. But like I say, everything from that police station, I remember it like yesterday.
Thank you. Moving on to paragraph 19, line 2, they had said that if I was to give a statement, then I would be able to go and see him because he needed to be identified. So they had said, if you get the statement done, then we'll see about you going to see him. And that's in quotation marks. And my mum had kind of been saying, let's just do the statement and then maybe you'll get to see him after. Again, that's in quotation marks. Tell us about this part of the conversation.
I remember that they had said that they knew it was difficult for me, but I would have to give a statement, and I had said, I don't want to give a statement, I want to see Sheikh. and they had said, you know, that they understood that it was difficult, but it was really important to try and get the statement so that they could get all the information that they needed to find out what had happened. And I said, no, I just want to see Sheik, I just want to see Sheik. I remember saying it over and over and over again. I don't want to do anything, I just want to see Sheik. And they had said, if you get the statement done, then we'll see about you going to see him.
So, having heard that, what was your understanding of the
Well, I
position?
thought, I'll do this statement and then I'll get to see him. They've said that he would need to be identified anyway, and they had said you will get to see him. So if you get your statement done, you'll get to see him because he needs to be identified anyway. Because they had explained that he would probably need a post-mortem. I think at that stage, but I remember being reassured that if I was to do my statement, then they would see what they could do about getting me to see him.
And as far as you were concerned, once you finished your statement, what was going to happen?
I thought I was going to get to see him.
When you gave your statement, did you remain of the view that Sheik had been murdered and they were looking for somebody?
Yeah.
And when you gave your statement, who was in the room?
It was me, my mum, baby, and the 2 officers.
The officers have given evidence and said they didn't tell you that you could see Sheik if you gave a statement. They wouldn't have tried to bargain with you in that way, and they couldn't make that offer to you. Again, would you like to comment on that?
I was very angry when I watched that. Absolutely disgusted, actually. It made me very upset. I wish that I would have the opportunity to be across from Wayne Barker and get him to look me in the eyes and tell me that he did not say that, because he did. And I'm so angry that he said that he didn't say that, because I can assure you that if they had explained to me that I wouldn't get to see Sheik and it could possibly be a few days, I would have been running out that police station to go and see him. I would have tried to go to the hospital, sorry.
No, not at all.
Can I have a break?
Oh, yes, thank you.
We'll have a 15-minute break now. Please play the next part. Miss Graham.
Thank you. Can I ask you just some questions about when your statement was taken? Was it explained to you that it's not being recorded or taped or any of that?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think it was just, he was just writing it down. But I don't think he stated that it wasn't being taped or recorded in any way.
And was it explained to you that you were there on an entirely voluntary basis?
No, because he had said, we need to take a statement from you. It wasn't, do you mind if we take a statement from you, or can you give us a statement? It was, we need to take a statement from you.
What impression did that give you?
That I had to do it.
And you said he was writing down.
Yeah.
Was every word that you said written down?
I'm not sure, because he was just asking me the questions and then I was just answering them, and I wasn't sure what was being written down or not.
Can we look at your inquiry statement again, please? Paragraph 21. You say here, when I was giving my statement, they were asking all about our relationship, where I'd been the night before, what we had done the day before, why was I staying at Mum's. They thought that was really strange. I remember them saying, had you had an argument? Why were you staying at your Mum's? I had to explain that that's just what we'd done. I was really close to Mum's, so if Sheik was ever going out and I wasn't going, I would just go and stay at Mum's, and then me and my mum would have a girly time together. And then she also got to spend time with your baby, and but they just kept pushing that we had fallen out, that we'd had an argument, and that's why I was staying. They were asking if me and Sheik's relationship was a good relationship, if it was stable. Can I ask you some questions about that paragraph? Can we maybe go back to the top? Was any explanation given to you by the officers as to why they were asking about your relationship?
No, I think they had said that they needed to ask questions to build up a picture of Sheik. That was kind of all they really said. And I didn't think it was strange. I just went along with all their questions. I've never been questioned by the police before, so I was kind of just automatically answering everything that they were saying to me. I didn't question it. I just thought it was quite normal.
When you've said they kept pushing that we had fallen out,
Yeah.
explain what you mean.
Once they knew that I'd stayed at Mum's, they just kept saying, but why were you staying at your Mum's? Was that something that you do often? Had you had an argument? Had you fallen out? And they would kind of ask it and then ask a different question that wasn't to do with it, and then come back and then ask about staying at Mum's again, almost to try and catch me out, or see if my answer was different. But it was just what we had done. But they just kept saying, and you had an argument, and did Sheik mind if you stayed at your Mum's? Just really concentrating on me being at Mum's, and was that normal for us, and did we argue a lot, did we have a good relationship? Yeah, just questions like that.
How did that make you feel at that time?
I don't remember it making me feel any kind of way. I think, as I said, they were asking the questions and I was just answering them. I do remember thinking, no, we haven't had an argument. I'm not going to change my mind. We didn't have an argument. I do remember thinking, why did you keep asking me if I I remember thinking, they think that it was strange that I was staying at mum's, but it just really wasn't. Like, it's just what we done. But I do remember feeling like that they thought that that was odd, that I was staying at mum's.
How often were you asked about the reasons for staying at your mum's?
Quite a lot, because like I say, like they kept kind of going back to it, like asking something else and then going back and saying, and so you stayed at your mum's, and did you stay at your mum's often? Like they just kept going back to it, and I thought, why did you keep asking me about that? I've told you it's quite normal for us to do that. Me and Shek were in a really good place.
Can I ask you about the next paragraph, 22? This is the paragraph that mentions questions about being asked about Sheikh himself.
Yeah.
If he was religious, if he was a Muslim, how religious was he? Did he pray? How often did he pray? Did he drink? Did he eat bacon? And you've explained how you were answering these questions. Can I ask about those questions first of all? At what point were those questions asked in the interview room?
I think they were just asking about Sheikh. They were asking what he'd done for a job, what he enjoyed doing. It was just really all those questions, and then it just all came like, kind of person was he? What did he do for a job? What did he do for fun? Blah blah blah. Was he religious? Was he a Muslim? Like it didn't seem to be in any kind of order. It was just what they had asked.
What was your understanding of the relevance of questions about him praying or his religion and eating bacon?
I didn't really think about it. I think I was very naive, and like I say, I just answered all the questions that they were asking me, because I didn't have any reason to doubt the questions or anything. I do remember when they had said, does he eat pork? Does he eat bacon? And I remember thinking, what? Like, what kind of question is that? And I just said, yeah. I found it odd that they had asked that. But like I say, like, when I've been questioned by the police before, I don't know what kind of questions that they're supposed to ask. So they asked me a question, I answered it, and I didn't think anything of it.
You then go on to say, I was asked if his family had a problem with me being white. Did they have a problem with me not being a Muslim? Did Sheikh want me to become a Muslim?
Yeah.
How confident are you that those questions were asked?
Very confident. I remember it. Like I say, I remember everything in the police station. Like I say, I've got no reason to make this up. I don't know why I would. I don't know what is routine questions, so I don't know what is a normal question to be asked. I have no reason to kind of make questions up as I go along. I vividly remember them asking me that. I remember him sitting across from me asking those questions and me just answering them. But again, I just thought it was routine questions. I'm 100% certain that they had said that. I have no hesitation that they asked me those questions.
The officers who took the statement, who were there with you, have indicated that, for example, you've mentioned Andrew Mitchell, and he said they didn't ask questions about his religion, whether he prayed or how often he prayed, or whether he ate bacon. Do you have any comment about that evidence?
Again, I can only tell you my truth and what I remember. And like I keep saying, I remember everything from the police station, and I remember all the questions that were asked of me. I really have no reason to make questions up. I remember that being said. And I know they've said that they didn't ask that. I don't know what more else I could say. They did ask me that, and if they said that they didn't ask that, why are they saying they didn't ask that? Because they definitely did. Are they saying that they didn't ask that because they shouldn't have asked that? Because I've got no reason to say that they asked me those questions. They definitely asked them.
You said a moment ago that you described yourself as naive. Looking back now, what impression do you have about these questions?
I think they're really odd. But like I say, like they gave it the impression that they were just having to find out about Sheck, about his character. I kind of just thought it was normal. I really didn't think anything of it. But I remember them being quite pushy with the Muslim questions, and about his family, and did they want me to become a Muslim? Did we face problems being in a mixed racial relationship? Again, they just were asking these questions and I just answered them. I mean, when they did ask if he ate pork or bacon, I remember thinking, but I kind of just like thought, that's a bit of an odd question. Maybe they're just trying to find out how kind of serious of a Muslim is he, because they had asked, because I remember them saying Muslims don't tend to eat bacon. So would you say that he was a serious, like, this was the kind of thing that they were saying, Muslims don't tend to eat bacon, so would you say that Sheck was a strong Muslim? Would you say that he was very religious? And then I think that he had said about, did he drink, because Muslims don't usually drink or do drugs, and I had said, well, he does enjoy a drink, but he doesn't do drugs. And I remember them saying Muslims don't usually, and then I got the impression it was to gauge how much of a Muslim was he, as strange as that is.
Thank you. Can we look at paragraph 23, please? You say there, they asked if I would be able to contact his sister. They had asked if he had had family here, and then they had asked if I would be able to tell his family. I said no. I said, how am I supposed to go to his sister's and explain that her brother's dead? I don't even know what's happened. Tell us about that part of the conversation.
I remember when they asked me, I remember being taken really aback and kind of being flabbergasted that they had even asked me that, because I thought, why would I tell them that? I don't know what's happened, you're the police. I didn't feel it was my position to go and tell her. And like I say, I didn't know how I was supposed to, how was I supposed to go to Keikie's door and say, Sheck's dead? I didn't feel capable of doing it, because obviously I was so upset myself. And I didn't feel like that was something that I should have to do. I think I thought, why would the police be asking me to do that? I found that odd.
You mentioned Keiki.
Yeah, that's Caddy.
Is that
Sorry.
Caddy Johnson?
Yeah, Sheck called her Keiki, and so did I.
At paragraph 24, you mention, I had also said that they would have to contact Connie because he was due to see her, see that day. Now,
Yeah.
as I understand it, Connie was Sheck Ubayo's former partner,
Yes.
and they had a child.
Yeah.
And he retained contact with
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
child. And I think you say at the end of that paragraph, I think I maybe passed on her contact number because I think I had her number, but I can't really remember.
I don't know if I gave the number, because I don't remember having Connie's number at that time. Because I think I remember saying you'll have to get in contact with Connie because he's supposed to see his child today. And I think they had asked me for numbers, and I had said, I don't have that. And I think they had said, oh, don't worry, we can find it. So I'm not sure, maybe, if that's what I'd said before, maybe that is true.
Is the reason that you mentioned Connie was because Sheku had an arrangement?
Yeah, he was
with
supposed
her
to
for
see his
that
son
day.
that day, yeah.
Were you given any more information by the police about whether they would speak to Connie themselves?
No,
or-
they had just said, don't worry, that they would find a contact for her and they would let her know. Because I was quite worried that, because they used to meet halfway, and I didn't want her bringing the little boy out and waiting around for him.
As far as you're aware, and you may not be, as far as you're aware, was contact made by the police with Connie
No.
at any time?
No, I think Connie found out on Facebook.
Can I ask you about the timing of the police taking the statement? Looking back now, you've described today how you were told the news and then the police asked to take a statement.
Yeah.
And one of the officers, Sergeant Mitchell, had taken your baby out
Yeah.
of the room for a short time and then a statement was taken. Looking back now, what impact did that have on you and taking the statement within that time frame?
I think it was really difficult because I had just had the bad news, and obviously my whole world had crumbled around me. And then I was asked to give a statement, and honestly, all I really wanted to do was go and see Sheik.
Can I ask you to look at paragraph 26, please? You were asked by the inquiry team when they were taking your statement about whether you had the chance to read over the statement before you left the police station. And you say, we just need to get that statement out of the way so that then he can be identified and you'll get to see him. That's the police comment. That didn't happen. I'm asked whether I was given the opportunity to read over and sign my statement. No, I don't think I did. I definitely didn't read it. I remember I got to read it when Perk gave it to me. Now, just for your purposes, you have a copy of the handwritten statement in the blue folder. And I wondered if you might want to correct something in paragraph 26. Do you see at the bottom of the pages on the handwritten statement? So it's towards the rear. I think it's got a red post-it. Do you see at the bottom of the pages that there appears to be your name?
Yeah.
Do you recognise that?
Yeah, that's my signature, yeah.
So when the chair looks at paragraph 26, should he understand that in fact you do appear to have signed the pages?
Yeah, I've obviously signed it, but I know that I didn't read it. I think it was, they had done the statement and they had said, oh, you should just sign at the bottom of each page here. But I definitely never read it.
Was the statement read over to you by one of the officers?
No.
And how clear are you in your memory of that?
Very, because it was just a case of doing the statement, signing it, and then that was it. I definitely didn't read it over, and it wasn't relayed back to me at all.
When you think back to your experience in Kirkcaldy Police Office, could you help the chair, looking back, are there ways that that experience could have been made better for you?
Honestly, I don't know. it was never going to be easy to find out that Sheik had died. But I feel that they were very misleading, and they used me. I feel like they tried to gather as much information as they possibly could on Sheik that would maybe benefit them. I don't feel like they were looking out for me. I feel like they were looking out for themselves. And I think they knew that I was a vulnerable person and that I was in a vulnerable position. And I think they knew that any questions that they were going to ask, I was going to answer them, because to me, I thought that I was going to be helping them find out what had happened to him. So I don't think there's anything that would have made it any better. However, I do think that we should have been told the full truth. I still to this day don't understand why I was told that there had been a body found. It was very misleading, it was very confusing for us. It was upsetting and very confusing for us. Being told that there was a body found and then going to sisters and her saying that he died in the ambulance, I remember being really confused.
We'll come on to that in a moment. So, thinking about the events in Kirkcaldy Police Station, is there anything you think could have been done by the police to maybe have more regard to your well-being and the impact of this experience on you?
I feel there wasn't really any reason to not break that news to me at home whilst I'm in the comfort of my own home, that he had passed away, and maybe not expecting me to do a statement right on the back of having that news. Yeah.
Is there anything else the police could have provided you with, or other than you've described?
Just the truth. But then if they had told me the truth, then I wouldn't have given that statement. And I think they knew that as well.
Let's move on to the time after you left Kirkcaldy Police Office. I think in paragraph 27, at that time you've told us about your baby and having breastfed your baby in the house before you went there.
Yeah.
I think in this paragraph you mentioned that your mum went to go and get some milk for you.
Yeah.
And to allow you to continue breastfeeding your baby. You've said in this paragraph that my mum was going to get the milk for me, but she got as far as the gate and then she was told that we weren't allowed in the house. It was a crime scene and that anything that we needed from the house they would have to get for us. So an officer did go into my freezer and got my breast milk and brought it back to the car. So in relation to your home, the officer wouldn't allow your mum access, but as I understand it, did get what you needed.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you were told your house was a crime scene?
I don't really remember feeling anything. I think I thought, kind of, well, that's good, because I know that they're looking for somebody in connection with it, and if they have the house, then they'll be able to get everything that they need, maybe. I didn't really think about it because at this point, from my understanding, it possibly was the beginning of a crime scene. So I didn't think anything of it because I'm still of the understanding that he's been found on the street and that they're looking for somebody in connection with it.
And that remained your impression after you'd given your statement?
Yeah.
Was any information given to you about what crime had been committed?
No.
Were you whether you understood that your house was to be searched. Then was that explained to you, having been told it was a crime scene?
No, it wasn't. I didn't really question it. I think I just, honestly, I was just kind of going along with everything. If they said they needed the house, they needed the house. If they said I needed to do a statement, I needed to do a statement. Any questions they asked me, I answered them. I was just compliant to everything, and I never questioned anything, because before all of this, I didn't have any reason to question the police or anything that they'd done.
Can I ask you about when you went to the house of Caddy and Addie Johnson? We've heard evidence from Caddy Johnson, who was Sheku's sister. Do you remember when you went there?
So after we left the police station, we went back to my mum's. I can't really recall how long we were there for, but I remember Kiki phoning me, and we were just crying, and she asked me to come down, so we basically went straight down after that phone call.
Can I ask you to look at paragraph 27 now, please? Oh, sorry, 29. After that, we went back to my mum's house. Then at some point when we were back at my mum's house, I think his sister Caddy phoned me. I think we then just went down to Keki's house. Shek called Caddy Keki, and so did I. I am asked whether Caddy knew Shek had died when we spoke on the phone. Yes, she did. I think they had said that an officer had gone to their house, but on the phone there was just a lot of tears, a lot of crying, a lot of, I can't believe it's him, I can't believe it. We went down, and when we got to Keki's house, I remember her saying that he died in the ambulance. I said to Keki, "What ambulance?" They told me that he was dead in the street. Why was he in an ambulance? Then Keki said, "What?" We were just confused. Keki had said that police officers had come to her house to tell her, and that they had said he died in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. So just in terms of working out when this happened, you've spoken to Caddy Johnson on the phone.
Yeah.
When you arrived at her house, had the police officers already left?
Yes.
So when you're in the house, you've mentioned, and I'm sorry, this spans 2 pages, and I wonder if we could maybe just get that. So at the end of page 10, you remember her saying that he died in an ambulance.
Yeah.
Was that the first time you'd heard mention of there being an ambulance involved?
I remember as soon as we went to Keki's, we were sitting on the sofa and we were kind of crying and just saying, "We can't believe it. It can't be him." And then I remember saying he died on the way to the hospital in the ambulance, and I remember thinking, what ambulance? I remember saying, "What ambulance?" I was told that he was found dead on the street, and I remember just us being like confused and like what's going on? But at that time I just thought that's really strange. I didn't know that there had been an ambulance, but then I thought, well, that's his sister, so maybe they've told her more information or something. But I was like, I don't know why I've been told that he's been found dead on the street, and then I go there and she's been told that he died in the ambulance. I was really, really confused when she had said that he had died in the ambulance, sorry.
How did you feel about the apparent difference between what Caddy had been told and what you had been told?
I think I just thought maybe when the police spoke to me, they got it wrong, and maybe there was an ambulance. At this point, I'm still not really questioning anything. I think I was in shock a lot, so I wasn't really thinking, but I do remember there being confusion over why would I be told that he was dead on the street and Keki's told that he died in the ambulance. But I remember thinking, well, maybe Keki just knows more because she's his sister.
You've told us earlier this morning that your memories of events in the police station were clear, but you said, I think, after that.
Yeah. I
things
remember
Can I
quite
ask
clearly. Sorry.
How clear
Yeah,
was your memory of this
Really,
matter?
really clear. I could still remember her sitting on the sofa, me sitting across from her, crying. I still remember she was in her dressing gown and stuff. Like it was yesterday, I remember it. And I remember her saying that he died in the ambulance, and I remember going, what? And that's like that was yesterday as well. Some things are really, really clear, some things not so clear, but that is really clear. I think it's because it's to do with Sheik and him being, how he died. I think that's why it's so significant in my memory. So I do remember her saying about the ambulance like it was yesterday.
Thank you. In paragraph 31 of your statement, you then talk about when the police came back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in the house when the police arrive
Mm-hmm.
on that occasion. We've heard that they came back for a second visit.
Yeah.
In this paragraph, if we just read the beginning of it, the police came back that day when I was at the house. I can't remember the timings because things were just a blur. I was just on autopilot. I think they had said there had been a warrant out for Sheik's arrest, and I think it was then that they had said they had received phone calls about him, so they were going to arrest him. I'm asked how we responded to that, just very confused. We were just thinking, I think they've got the wrong person, and this is not Sheik at all.
Yeah.
It just wasn't matching up, and I just remember thinking, maybe they've got the wrong person. So can we I'll just stop there for the moment. Describe to us your reaction to being told that there was a warrant out for Sheik's arrest.
Honestly, I remember feeling a little bit of relief because I thought, this isn't Sheik. I just remember thinking, there's no way that that's Sheik. So I kind of felt, they've got the wrong person. Honestly, I just thought they've got the wrong person. They're not talking about Sheik, so maybe we still need to find him, honestly.
We know that there wasn't a warrant out for his arrest that day. How clear is your memory of that part of the day?
Yeah, quite clear. Timings I'm not sure about, but I do remember them saying that there was a warrant out for his arrest, that they had received phone calls about him having a knife. And then, I can't remember exactly what was said after that, but I remember there's been a warrant out for his arrest, that they had received phone calls about him having a knife. And then I think after that I was just thinking, I think they've got the wrong person here.
Who was it that mentioned the warrant? Do you remember?
No. This is what's blurry. I remember certain things being said, but who said what and what times and things, I can't remember. But I do clearly remember that they had said that there had been a warrant out for his arrest.
Did you recognise the officers who came to the
Yes,
Johnsons?
yes. I just can't really remember who had said what. Because like I said, I was just on autopilot and I was very numb. I can't really remember who was...
When you say you recognise them, do you remember who they were?
Yes.
Who were they?
Wayne Parker and DC Mitchell.
The officers who
I'm
had spoken
terrible
to
with
you.
names, yeah.
No, I am as well. So they were the officers that had spoken to you at Kirkcaldy Police
Yeah.
Office earlier.
Yeah.
And then moving on further down paragraph 31, you comment on thinking they've got the wrong person.
Yeah.
And then you say, I remember them saying about a knife. Do you see
Yeah.
that line? And I remember them saying that he was brandishing the knife. I think they were saying it was a machete at first. I said, Sheik doesn't have a machete. Then I said, I think I would know if there was a machete in my house. I think that's how we first got told.
Yeah.
I think we were told that he was brandishing a machete around and that there was a warrant out for his arrest for that. then we were just in disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about this part of the conversation.
Yeah, I remember that really clearly as well. I remember them saying that he was brandishing a machete, and I thought, no, he wasn't. Like, I just remember thinking, you've definitely got the wrong person here. You're not talking about Sheik. And I remember thinking, I think I would know if I had a machete in my house. So again, thinking, they've got the wrong person. They've got this all wrong. They're definitely not talking about Sheik.
You've said, I think I would know if
Yeah.
you didn't have a machete in your
No,
house.
yeah.
At least at that time.
Definitely
and,
not.
What made you make that connection between your house and what they were saying about a knife or a machete?
I don't know. I just kind of thought, well, where would he get a machete from? And I was pretty confident that it hadn't come from our house. I wasn't really thinking about where else he would maybe get a machete from. I just knew that I was certain in my mind that we did not own a machete. But still, at this point, I'm really thinking they've got the wrong person. They're not talking about Sheik.
Can I ask you to look at paragraph 32, please? And this is a paragraph where you say, I think Addy had said at that point to get the chief of police because I think he worked with him, so he knew him. So he was asking to see him. We've heard that Senior Officer Gary McEwen
Yeah.
was at the house later on the day. Is that who you mean when you say chief of police?
Yeah.
And you've said here, I think when he came to the house, it was him who had said that it had been a forceful arrest, that CS spray and pepper spray had been used, that batons had been raised and used. I remember him saying that when they got there, Sheik had gone towards them with the knife. I remember them saying that he had hit a female police officer. And I remember thinking, there is absolutely no way that they are talking about Sheik. I thought there's no way that Sheik would hurt a woman. There's no way that he would hit a woman. The thing about a knife, I was just thinking, this is not Sheik. This isn't the same person. So was it Gary McEwen who gave you this more detailed information?
Yes.
Tell us about what he said.
I just remember him coming to the house and saying that there had been a forceful arrest and that they had used CS spray, pepper spray and batons. And I remember him saying that Sheik had gone towards them with the knife, and I remember him going like this, like Sheik's gone towards the officers with the knife like that. And about how he had hit a female police officer. And I just thought, why are they talking to us? They've got the wrong person. They're definitely not talking about Sheik here. And I remember saying, this isn't Sheik, this isn't the same person that we're talking about. I just thought, this is madness. Like, this is not the person that I know, and there's no way that they're talking about the same person. But I do remember that after him telling us about the forceful arrest, to my memory, I had said, so you battered him to death. And I'll still remember it now. He went like this. Just raised his hand, shrugged his shoulders as if saying, don't know. And that will never leave me.
In paragraph 32, you used the words there, forceful arrest. You've mentioned that today.
Yeah.
They're not in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Can you help the chair understand what words Gary McEwen actually used?
He definitely used, that should be in quotation marks, he definitely had said that there had been a forceful arrest.
Was this the first time that you had heard this information?
Yeah, so we had heard previously that there had been a warrant out for his arrest, but then when Gary McEwen came back, it was that it had been a forceful arrest and that it had been the CS spray, the pepper spray and the batons that had been used. Yeah, I remember he had said that it had been a forceful arrest.
There may be a number of different versions. Yours says it was Gary McEwen that
Yeah.
shared that information. How confident are you that it was Gary McEwen?
Yeah, I'm fairly confident. I still remember him coming in. I still remember him sitting on the chair in the living room, everybody kind of around him. He was sitting in the middle of the room, and he had said that there had been a forceful arrest. He said about the CS spray, the pepper spray and the batons, and I remember him clear as day shrugging his shoulders when he was asked that they'd battered him to death.
So if others have said it may have been other officers,
Mm-hmm.
are they wrong and you're right?
I don't want to put words into. I don't want to really put words into different people's mouths, but from what I remember, I'm really fairly confident that it was Gary McEwen that had said that.
Thank you.
I think I'm fairly confident in that he said that because I remember it was on the back of that we learned about the pepper spray and the batons, and I'm shrugging his shoulders. I think that's why it's so evident in my mind that it was Gary McEwen that had said that, because I remember his reaction. That'll never leave me, I remember it.
You're describing him shrugging his shoulders
Yeah.
and your reaction.
Mm-hmm.
What's been the long-term impact of that on you?
Really difficult. I remember thinking, are you serious? You're shrugging your shoulders. Like, is it you don't know, or is it you don't care? I remember him shrugging his shoulders and being so angry, thinking, are you serious? Like, you're shrugging your shoulders. But also when Gary McEwen was kind of giving us this information, he was kind of saying it in a way that he couldn't really believe what he was saying as well. I remember him being a bit like hasty with what he was saying, and then when he shrugged his shoulders, it was a genuine like, I don't know, possibly. So I do remember it was kind of, he was just saying the facts of it, but it was almost like he wasn't quite believing what he was saying as well. I just remember him being quite hasty with the information, and maybe it was hasty or unsure. Yeah.
He was unsure.
Unsure. I think he was not very confident with the information that he was giving us, or uncomfortable with the information that he was giving us.
You said, if we look at paragraph 33, you talk about him delivering the information to you and the family. And you say, I feel like he was a bit unsure of the information. I can't remember when we were getting that information. I wasn't looking at how he was because I was just getting all this information. And from my recollection, I remember shouting, so you battered him to death. This chief of police, I'll always remember, he just shrugged his shoulders. And you describe how you were very, very angry, as you've put it. And then if we move further down the page, just that's fine there, thank you. And you say you were crying, very angry, so you went through to another room.
Yeah.
You say, since then I have spoken to my mum about what happened, and now know that it wasn't me that had said that. It was my mum who had said, you killed him. And then it was me that had said, you're not going to get away with this.
Yeah.
In the moment of everything happening, I just remember bits of what was said, because I just remember feeling like I was on a spinning wheel and I couldn't really retain a lot of the information. I was just thinking, this isn't happening.
Yeah.
Can you describe to us a little about how you're feeling at this moment?
Like I say, I think I just wasn't thinking that this was true. But the more the information that they were given, I do remember just feeling like I was spinning, like the room was spinning around me, and like I couldn't really hear what was going on. It was like I was, there was like echoes around me, and I just feel like I was stood still and the whole world was spinning around me. That's just how I remember feeling. I remember there being a lot of upset and a lot of shouting at this point. And I think after Gary McEwen had shrugged his shoulders in that way, I think I was just very, very angry. And then I think from then I was shut down a little bit. And I do remember just standing up and shouting, "You're not going to get away with this." And then I took the baby out of the room into another room.
So can I just be clear? You've mentioned at the top of paragraph 33 that you'll see in quotation marks in line, I think it's 6 down from the top, I remember shouting, "So you battered him to death." But then later you say you've spoken to your mum and you say it was my mum who had said you killed him.
Yeah.
And I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
What you remember saying and what you remember or
Yeah.
you've been told
I
your mum
think-
said.
In my memory, I don't know if it's because it was something that I was thinking, "You battered him to death." But it was always clear in my memory that I had said that, and then I had said, "You're not going to get away with this." Like, that bit was always in my memory, but it wasn't until after I spoke to my mum that she had said, you didn't say that. I had said you killed him, and then you responded with, "You're not going to get away with this." And I'm not sure if it's just what your brain does when you're in that kind of state.
But if we think just about your memory.
Yeah, to
and
my
not what your
memory, I
mum's-
had said, "So you battered him to death." And that was maybe because that's what I was feeling inside, that's what I was thinking. But yeah, to my memory, that's what I had said.
But the comment about you're not going to get away with this,
Yeah.
which is also in quotation marks, who said that?
That was me. I remember being given that information, Gary McEwen shrugging his shoulders, and then saying, "You're not going to get away with this."
And there's no suggestion from your mum that you didn't say
No,
that,
she said
as
that
far
you
as
did
know.
say that, and then you went to the kitchen and you didn't come back.
All right. So that there's no dispute about
Yeah.
that comment. And we've heard that Sheik's family also reacted very strongly at that
Yeah.
time. And again, just before I finish this passage, looking back now, having gone through that experience, could you think of anything that might have made things a little bit better for you at that time? Could the police have done anything to help?
I think the fact that he shrugged his shoulders, I still don't understand why he done that. I feel like it's quite rude of him to do that. You're telling me that my partner's died, that the police have done all this to him, and you're just shrugging your shoulders about it like you don't care, like you don't care.
Would you still like an explanation?
Yeah. Because it's something that's never going to leave me. I still relive it. And I'm still very, very shocked that somebody of his stature would shrug his shoulders in a way like that. It's not the behaviour that I would expect from somebody in his position, to just shrug his shoulders like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Stop for lunch at that point, then we'll sit again at 2 o'clock. Will we stop the tape there then? And we'll take a 10-minute break now. Ms Wildgoose, this next part's going to take about an hour, so around about 1 o'clock I'll try and identify a suitable point and ask you to stop for lunch. So we can now play the next part. I think you've been made aware that because of a technical issue we won't have real-time transcription this afternoon, but that can be rectified later. I think we should make progress.
Thank you.
Ms Graham.
Can I ask you one thing about, not about the transcript, but what's been transcribed from your evidence earlier today is that you had spoken to the police on previous occasions. Now, my recollection is that you said you had never spoken to the police on previous occasions before the 3rd of May and been interviewed by the police. Am I wrong in that? Or
I don't know, not that I remember.
can I ask you, was on the 3rd of May 2015, was that the first time you'd been interviewed by the police?
Yeah,
And asked-
what I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's a mistake in the transcript. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to be clear
Yeah.
in case that isn't corrected.
While we're talking about transcript, it is actually back on again now, so...
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Can I ask you about the involvement of family liaison? And if we look at your inquiry statement, you tell us quite a bit about this. And I'm particularly interested in the comments you've made in paragraph 40. You say that you remember them being very rude and quite aggressive. I don't see that there now. Yes, I do. It's about 6 or 7 lines down, just at the end. Thank you. So I just remember them being very rude and quite aggressive, and remember thinking, I just wish you would go away. Can you explain to the chair why you say that?
Yeah. I think at this point, because we had learnt more about what had happened, I didn't have any trust for the police or anything like that. And yeah, I don't really remember much about it, but I just remember feeling that I didn't want them there, and we got the sense of feeling that they didn't want to be with us either. But as for specifics, I can't really remember what they had said or anything that they had done. It was just a general feeling of, I think because I was grieving as well, like I just wanted to be on my own. I didn't want to be seeing everybody.
We've heard that family liaison arrived at round about 10 o'clock on the 3rd of May. And we've heard that they may have been from the Perk rather than from the police.
Yeah.
Can you help us? Were they from Perk or were they from the police?
I think they maybe were from Park, and I remember that they had asked if there was anything that I wanted from the house, and that was to make a list of everything that I would need. And I remember asking for Shek's pillow and a hoodie of his, I think it was. But I remember them saying that I would have to do a list of everything that I needed. And I remember, I think it was male officers, because I remember thinking, well, I don't have things like underwear, and thinking, I'm not getting them to go through my drawers. So I just remember thinking, oh no, just get me his pillow and get me a hoodie. And I think that was Park, yeah.
Did they get you the things you asked for?
Yes.
And looking back now, do you think anything could have been done to make that a better experience for you?
Not really. I think it's just a horrible experience anyway.
If they'd been women, would that have made
Maybe, yeah, maybe for personal things, yeah.
Apart from your experience on the 3rd of May, did you have any other experiences with family liaison beyond that date?
After the incident?
After the 3rd of May?
I don't think so. I don't think we've seen much of the liaison officers, because I think at this point Amber was involved, and I think we had expressed to him that we weren't comfortable with them, and I think he had said that there was no really any need to have them.
All right, thank you. Can I ask you to look at paragraph 44, please? And you say here that you found out that the post-mortem had already taken place when we were in Amar's office. And we've heard evidence about the family going to Amar Anwar's offices on the Tuesday, that would be the 5th of May. Is that the date you're talking about?
Yes.
And I think you explained what your reaction to learning about the post-mortem having been done was. You said they've not had permission to do that.
Yes.
And was it your understanding at that time that they needed permission to do the post-mortem?
Yeah, because I remember when I was in the police station, they had said they would need to be identified, so nothing could go ahead without them being identified anyway. And I just remember thinking, but has it been identified, so how have they managed to do the post-mortem? And then, yeah, like, it was of my understanding that they would need permission to do that. But that's just my personal...
What information had been shared with you about the necessary identification or the procedure in relation to the post-mortem?
Nothing really. We were just told that we would get to see him because he needed to be identified. That's all I was told.
What information, if any, were you given in advance of the post-mortem that was going to be carried out?
None.
So by the time you were offered given the opportunity to see Sheku, had the post-mortem already been carried out?
Yes.
Had you been given any opportunity to see him prior to that?
No. I remember on the 3rd of May, I stayed up really, really late, obviously upset, but I kept thinking, why have they not contacted me to go and see him yet? And I remember saying to my mum, I thought they were going to phone me to go and see Sheik. And then I was like, but I don't have a number to get in contact with them. Surely they'll just get in contact with us. Because I had made it very, very clear to them that I wanted to see him.
So in terms of maybe improving things in the future for others, what would have helped in terms of liaison with the police about
Well, I
that?
didn't realise that there was different ways that a body could be identified, because I think, from my understanding, he was identified through a Facebook post, a picture online, and I didn't know that that's possible. I also didn't realise that it wouldn't be the same day that I would get to see Sheik. I wasn't of the understanding that it would be not that day and possibly not even the days after it, because I was very much of the understanding that if I'd done my statement, then I would almost right on the back of it be able to go and see him.
Looking back now, what impact has not being able to see him before the post-mortem had on you?
Really bad. I think because I didn't get to say goodbye, I didn't get to see him. Even now, I think maybe they still got it wrong. Like, I know they didn't get it wrong, I know it was Sheik, but I often find myself thinking, maybe they did get it wrong, maybe it wasn't actually him. I often have nightmares and things about it, that I'll be walking down a beach on holiday and Sheik will be coming towards me, and I think it's just I didn't have that closure and I didn't have that time to say goodbye, because it was so sudden, and then not being able to see him, it's had a massive impact on me.
You've mentioned later at paragraph 47 in your statement that when you were given an opportunity at a later time after the post-mortem, you wanted to see him for how he was, not after he'd had the post-mortem.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with how a body might look after a post-mortem, and I didn't want to be seeing Sheik with stitches, or I just was thinking worst case scenario, and I didn't want to remember him like that. I would have rathered have seen him how he was before the post-mortem.
Thank you. Can I ask you about a call we've heard evidence about from the Sierra Leone embassy?
Yeah.
You mentioned this at paragraph 46. Where were you when this call, a call about the embassy, was received?
From my understanding, we were in Amar's office when we received that call, because it was, we found out about the post-mortem having been done, and then later on, not even long after then, it was somebody in the room had had a phone call about it.
Who was it received the call?
I can't remember, it was a family member.
And we've heard some evidence that there was mention that the embassy had been in touch with an aunt, I think, in London, and there was a conversation about repatriation of the body. What, if anything, did you know about a conversation about repatriation?
I remember the call coming in, and it was spoken about that the embassy in Sierra Leone had been contacted because Sheik had died, and that they were asking about shipping the body back to Sierra Leone. And I think I remember on the back of that it was asked how he died, and then I think it went silent. But I almost feel like I was in disbelief, because I was thinking they've just done the post-mortem and now they're trying to ship his body back to Sierra Leone. Why are they doing that? And I just remember thinking they're trying to take him away from us. Why are they trying to take his body away from us? And that's what I remember. I just remember after the phone call coming in, a lot of kind of hysteria in the room, a lot of upset and anger. Yeah.
Had Sheik who applied for British citizenship?
Yeah.
And tell us, was that process ongoing at the time he died?
I think it was still ongoing. I remember that he had just taken the exam, an English exam, but I can't remember if he'd actually gotten his citizenship, because I remember we were applying to go on a holiday, and I think he needed it for a passport and things, but I can't really remember what stage it was at.
And thinking back now to hearing about this issue regarding repatriation, has that had a long-term impact on you?
Yeah, because it sticks with me that if Sheik had been taken back to Sierra Leone, I would have nowhere to visit. I take my son to his grave quite a lot, and it's quite it's nice for to be able to go to the grave, as well as myself. I spent a lot of time down there after he had passed away, and if they had taken his body away, then I wouldn't have that same opportunity to have that connection.
Thank you. Can I move on and ask you about your involvement with PERC? You've talked at paragraph 48 about being aware that PERC were made up of ex-police officers, and you remember not really liking them, but you say, I was very defensive after what has happened. Can you explain to us a little bit about your concerns in connection with PERC?
I think I had lost all trust in the police at this point, and I didn't really want anything to do with the police or PERC, because I thought they're all made up of ex-police officers and they're supposed to be independent, but how independent can you be if it's all ex-officers that are that make up PERC? It's not really transparent if it's the police investigating the police. So I think I remember just feeling very defensive of them, because I thought, this just isn't very fair. You're supposed to be transparent, and like I say, I don't think you could be completely transparent if you've got a police background, and I didn't feel comfortable that it was the police investigating the police.
Thank you. You mentioned a meeting that you had with Kate Frame, who was the Commissioner at the time. Could we look at paragraph 51, please? Do you remember when you had your first meeting with Kate Frame?
Mm-hmm.
When was that? How long after the 3rd of May?
I can't remember the time frame of it at all, but I remember the meeting quite well.
How many meetings did you have with her?
One.
So this was the one meeting you
Yeah.
had? And you've said, you mentioned the phrase there, inherited bad apples.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about this meeting.
So I remember going to the meeting, and at this point we had known about Sheik's injuries, and I think we had had a poster of all of Sheik's injuries. And I remember going to this meeting and Kate Frame kind of just telling us about Police Scotland and how they worked, and I remember being really quite angry at this meeting because she had said that they didn't think that there was any reason to think that any criminality had been taking place. And I remember we had just seen all these injuries, and I remember holding up the poster and saying, you know, if this was a member of the public who had caused somebody all of these injuries, there would be justice here. And I remember being very, very snide and almost laughing at me. I think at one point she actually did snigger, almost that my anger and my upset was funny to her. And I just remember we had known that there had been complaints against some of the officers that were involved, and I remember saying, but why are they still in a job if they've had so many complaints about them? Why are they still in a job? And I remember her saying that when Police Scotland amalgamated, that they had inherited bad apples. And I just remember thinking, but a job is a job. Surely every job has like disciplinary procedures. So if somebody has all these complaints about them, how do they still have a job? If you know that they're a bad apple, why are they still there?
Did you feel that Kate Frame was able to answer the questions that you had at that meeting?
No, honestly, I just think she thought that I was stupid. She was really quite snide and arrogant.
You've said that you asked about where was the justice for what happened. Looking back now, what do you mean by justice? What would you have wanted to happen at that meeting?
I would hope and wish that the police would be put in jail for this, because like I say, if Sheik hadn't come in contact with the police that day, he would still be here. That's my belief. And I believe that if anybody else and like the public, if somebody had done that to somebody else, caused those injuries for him to become unconscious and then die, they would get done for manslaughter or murder. And then I just feel like,
if you think about Kate Frame and
Yeah.
the meeting you were having with Perk that day, is there a way you think that meeting could have been handled better by Perk?
I'm not sure. I didn't.
Could Kate Frame have done anything or said anything that might have made
Probably be a little bit
things-
more understanding. I just felt like she had a very bad attitude towards us. Very much, she's right, we're wrong.
I'll move on. You've talked a number of paragraphs. Let's begin with paragraph 49. you talk about being angry and how you'll see at 49, I think I'm doing well until I think back to something that I don't usually thinking about, and it makes me angry at how they tried to villainise Sheik so much and blame him for what happened. I am asked whether that is something I think the PERC were doing. Yes. And then in paragraph 50, you say, I remember even when we were first told about what had happened, that we were told not to talk to the press. And then I remember a story coming out about it, but we had been told not to talk about it, and then it was in the press. I just remember how they were portraying Sheik and it not being very fair. How they were portraying him was totally not the man that he was. And if we could move that up, please. And I remember thinking it was so unfair that we weren't allowed to talk to the press, but the police were giving out all this information to paint him out and what had happened. And we were still kind of finding out what was happening. We're still having trust in them, that they were looking into everything that had happened, but then they had given out all these details that we didn't know. I wonder if you can explain how you saw things at that time. You've used the phrase about them villainising Sheik and blaming him. Can you tell us about your perspective at that time?
Yeah, I just remember in the press it was said how he was massive, he was built like a house, he was 6 foot odd and weighed so much, how he was on drugs and how he had the knife, just painting him out to be, you know, when they were describing his size, I just remember thinking, but he really isn't that big. But I think it's hard to see anything bad said about somebody you love anyway.
You've mentioned in paragraph 49 whether that was something you thought that PERC were doing, and you said yes there. Can you explain why you think PERC were trying to villainise Sheik?
I'm not sure, I can't... because I remember that it was Peter Watson that was giving a lot of the stories to the press, so I'm not sure why I said the PERC. Maybe...
Do you want to maybe change that comment there?
Yeah, because I don't remember that it was PERC because I don't think that PERC were given any stories or anything to the press. I think it was Peter Watson.
So that paragraph 49 maybe doesn't fairly reflect what you're saying today. Thank you. And then can I look at paragraph 58, please?
Here until 2 o'clock.